We're told to be authentic, to be true to ourselves. But what if the self you're being true to is outdated? The world is changing faster than ever before. Careers that were once safe are now being automated. Skills that were once valuable are now obsolete. And yet, we cling to old identities, old titles, and old stories about who we are. This creates a dangerous gap between who we were and who the world needs us to be. It's a recipe for becoming irrelevant. But there's a small group of people who thrive in this chaos. They don't just survive change, they harness it. They're not just authentic, they are what I call evolutionary authentic. In this video, I'm going to show you the system they use to stay true to their core while constantly reinventing their skills and their value. This is the science of mastering your identity in a changing world. Now, imagine a shipbuilder who builds the most incredible, unsinkable ship. He's proud of his creation, but he gets so attached to the design that he refuses to update it, even as the seas change and new technologies emerge. Eventually, his masterpiece becomes a museum piece, a relic of a bygone era. This is what most people do with their identity. Psychologists have long studied the concept of self-concept stability, and research also shows that having a stable sense of self is crucial for mental health and a sense of meaning in life. But here's the paradox. In a rapidly changing world, a rigid self-concept can become a prison. The very thing that once gave you stability now prevents your growth. The flawed system that most people use is what I call identity stagnation. They define themselves by a static title like lawyer, marketer, or pharmacist. They build a story around this title and they look for evidence that confirms it. This system is optimized for a world that no longer exists. I know this trap intimately. For years, my identity was Ehoneah, the clinical pharmacist. I was in the top 5% of my class. I had the credentials, the respect, and the clear default path was laid out before me. But on the inside, I felt a growing sense of misalignment. The work that once energized me now sort of drained me. Leaving that identity felt like a betrayal of everything I had worked for. It was terrifying. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. The key to escaping this trap is a concept from developmental psychology called identity exploration. Researchers like Eric Erikson found that identity isn't a fixed object you find, but a dynamic process you engage in throughout your entire life. Healthy identity formation, therefore, involves periods of exploration where you actively try on new roles and skills, followed by periods of commitment where you integrate what you have learned. The solution is to shift from a static identity to a dynamic identity system. So instead of defining yourself by a title, you define yourself by your core values and your process of reinvention. Your identity isn't the ship. It's the shipbuilder constantly learning, adapting, and upgrading the vessel for the journey ahead. Now, consider the story of Ulysses S. Grant. At age 38, he was by all accounts a failure. A series of failed business ventures that had left him a debtor, barely able to support his family. His identity was failed businessman. But when the Civil War began, he didn't clinch to that identity. He saw an opportunity to apply his core values, duty, perseverance, strategic thinking, to a new domain. He reinvented himself as a military commander and eventually became the president of the United States. He changed his role, but not his core. This illustrates the principle of self-efficacy, a concept from psychologist Albert Bandura. It's a belief in your ability to succeed in new situations. You build self-efficacy not by affirmations, but by accumulating proof. Each small win in a new domain builds your belief that you can succeed in that domain, which makes it easier to take on the next bigger challenge. Here is the practical system for building a dynamic identity. I call it the reinvention loop. It has 3 parts. Step 1, anchor in your values. Identify your top 3 to 5 core values. These are your non-negotiables. This is a stable foundation of your identity. Step 2, launch micro experiments. So based on your curiosity, launch small, low-cost experiments to learn new skills or explore new domains. The goal is not to necessarily succeed, but rather to gather data. Then step 3, integrate the proof. Take the evidence from your experiment and integrate it into your story. You're no longer just a lawyer anymore. You're now a problem solver who used to practice law and is now exploring how to apply that skill to climate tech or any other thing. Just make sure that you're integrating the new evidence that you're building and the results from the experiments that you're conducting into your identity. This is the art of mastering your identity in a changing world. It's a dance between stability and change. Your values provide the stability, your experiments provide the change. This system allows you to be both deeply rooted and highly adaptable. The most common pitfall is waiting for a moment of crisis to reinvent. People wait until they get laid off or their industry gets disrupted and then they panic. Reinvention engineers don't wait for a crisis. They are in a constant state of gentle, intentional evolution. In a world that is constantly changing, your identity cannot be a static monument. It must be a living, breathing organism. It must be a system designed for evolution. The goal is not to find yourself, but to engineer yourself again and again. Now, imagine a future where change is no longer a threat, but an opportunity for you, where you have a deep sense of who you are, yet you're not limited by it, where you can confidently step into new roles and new industries and new challenges as well, knowing that your core identity is still secured. Here's your experiment. Take 15 minutes this week. Write down your current professional title, then write down 3 core values that are important to you in your work. Finally, write down one small, low-cost experiment you could run in the next month to explore a new skill or any area of interest. Then come back here and comment the title of your experiment. Let's see what you're building. Also, if you are really serious about reinventing yourself or even changing your career this year, then go ahead and subscribe to this channel for relevant guidance on this journey. Welcome to the lab.